Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Joel Hancock at Hancock Law Firm. It's another episode of Live at 5. If you're watching this, you or somebody that you know is considering going to law school, and you would like my opinion on it. So, anyway, I feel like I have, I've done the necessary things to gain the experience and, the perspective that you might need here. So, I'll try and offer some tips, maybe give you a little bit of advice if you are considering law school. I jotted down a couple of reasons. This is the normal standard advice that I give to anybody when they tell me that they're considering going to law school, or if they ask me what I think. So here goes. I think you should go to law school if and only if, number one, you can go to law school for free or for very cheap. And number two, if you're dying to be a lawyer. And really, I would say, it can be one or the other. Preferably, it needs to be both of those things. So I'll dive into each one of those things in a little bit further detail. But let me go ahead and tell you, I'll give you my disclaimer about all of this, and that is that I absolutely love law school. It was enjoyable to me. I went to law school I went to Penn State University School of Law in University Park. Actually, Penn State at the time had two campuses, but we were all the same law school. And at that time, you could attend one campus and also, and you can enroll in classes that were at the other campus that was an hour away. We had some distance education, audiovisual equipment that allowed us. It was like you were actually in the classroom with the professor that was 100 miles away. The professor could see you. You could ask questions. You could raise your hand, and they would acknowledge you. Since then, the law school is kind of broken up, so there's now two different law schools. But when I went to Penn State, it was one law school at both campuses. I enjoyed it. My wife went up there with me. We had been married about a year before. My first son was born while we were in law school. My best friends in the world that I still keep up with today. I have more and closer friends from law school than I do from my hometown that I've known. The friends that I've known since I was 5 years old. Though I will tell you that of my core group of friends and the people that I went to Penn State with, there are a lot of us that graduated in the same class, or, like I said, my core group of friends that are not practicing lawyers. Now, they've used their law degree to benefit them in other ways and in other fields and other areas. But I think that people sometimes believe or mistakenly believe that they're just going to go to law school, pass the bar exam, and become a lawyer, and, it's just as easy as that. Sometimes it's not as easy as that. Sometimes you may not pass the bar exam. You may not graduate from law school. If you do pass the bar, or if you do graduate from law school and you do pass the bar exam, you may decide that the law isn't for you, and that happens sometimes. You may decide that there's a better opportunity somewhere else. So I don't want to say this to discourage or make you think that law school itself is bad. It may very well be the case that you would love law school, that you would love the challenge, that you would have the time of your life and meet new friends, and it would be everything that you hope it would be. But again, my advice is not really about whether or not you will enjoy law school. My advice is really taking into account whether or not law school is going to be a value proposition for you. For most people, the answer is going to be no. Law school is extremely expensive. Ask yourself this right now: if you ask yourself if you are willing to make payments on the nicest and newest Ferrari in the world in 3 years. If the answer is no, then in a lot of instances, a law school education is not going to be for you. And that's because you may end up spending $150,000, $200,000 on law school and get out of law school with no better job prospects than you would have right now. And that's just the sad reality of it. But if you can go to law school for free or for very cheap, then it may change that value proposition for you. Now, if you can come out of law school with only $30,000 worth of debt or $50,000 worth of debt, that's a big difference and a far cry from $150,000 to $200,000 worth of debt. The sad truth is that a degree in law is not going to guarantee a job in law. And I'm not going to go over the specifics of the numbers of the employment statistics, but there are a lot of people graduating from law school with hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of debt that cannot find a job in the legal field. And if you think that you'd be better as an insurance agent or selling cars or teaching school or doing any number of other things that you can do without a law degree, then by all means go ahead and do that. Now, second, like I said, you go to law school if you can do it for free or very cheap, and or if you're just dying to be a lawyer. And I would say that I probably fell more into the second category. And trust me, law school was not free or cheap for me. But I wanted to be a lawyer my whole life. And, I was familiar with the practice of law. I had family members and people that I knew and trusted that were lawyers. I had some experience working in law firms before I went to law school. Some bad experience, and I'll get to that later. But some bad experience, some good experience. But ultimately, I knew that being an attorney was something that it felt like my calling. It felt like that it was something that I was destined to do, that I needed to do. And so law school was, at least for me, and if you're in that kind of situation as well, then it may be something that you need to do. So now, but let me go into that a little bit further. Like I said, I had some experience with the law and with some law firms before I went to law school. In fact, I had a bad experience while I was in college working at a law firm where I thought for a couple of years, actually, I thought that the law was not for me. And it was because of this bad experience that I'd had at a law firm. I did not like the culture. I did not like the way that people were treated. I did not like how things were done. And I wrongfully assumed that that's just how the law was, that that's how law firms operated. And so I decided, if this is what it's going to be like to be a lawyer, then count me out. Luckily, I was cured of that belief early enough to be able to, kind of restart that dream of going to law school. But I would recommend for you that if you are considering going to law school and you think that you can do it for free or for cheap, that you at least give an attorney a call and let them know that you're considering that. Ask somebody that you trust that is an attorney for their advice, for their guidance, and if at all possible, maybe do an internship. Go work at an attorney's office answering phones or doing something. Shadow an attorney for a summer and see if it really is something that you want to do. Because, if you decide 2 years into law school that the law is not for you, then you've already, especially if you've done it because you believe that you need to be a lawyer, and you've gone to law school and you didn't listen to advice number one. You're not doing it because it's free. You're not doing it because it's cheap, but you're doing it because you feel like you have to. You don't want to be second, third year law student realizing that the law is not for you, because by that point you're already $100,000, $200,000 into debt, and that's a bad way to go. So I'm not saying that law school is not for anybody. There certainly are people that are able to go to law school and excel, get out debt free, and find high paying jobs. Those are the exception. More likely than not, if you don't go to law school for free or for cheap, you're going to get out with a whole lot of debt and very troubling, very difficult odds of finding a high-paying legal career to be able to pay for that that $200,000 Ferrari that you call a law degree. So anyway, that's some tips and advice for whether or not you want to go to law school. If you have any questions about law school that you want me to answer, leave them down in the comments. Certainly appreciate everybody watching today, and I will see you next week. Thanks, y'all.